right, thank you so much for being here and being our captive audience. We have four great panelists. They are our alumni, and we would like to thank them for being here. They're going to say amazing things, but regardless of that, even for being here and taking the time they deserve, and of course, we would also like to thank Professors Gabriela Gonzalez and Katelyn Grun for organizing this event, and Jose for helping with the logistics. Hopefully it's going to be a great event, and hopefully there will be some other events you'll be hearing about. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. I'm Katelyn Grun. I'm a professor in the history department. This is my colleague, Dr. Gabriela Gonzalez, and we decided that we have such impressive history alumni that we needed to get some of them here to talk with current history students about sort of life after UTSA with the history degree. So we reached out to them and they said yes, they were willing to come here after work, fighting traffic, and so we're very grateful to them. What we're planning to do is to have each of our panelists talk for a few minutes, telling you about their individual experiences or advice or whatever they have to say. And then after all of them have spoken for a little while, then we'll open it up for questions and discussion. So we'll ask you to kind of hold on to your questions for any individuals until we finish with that, sort of like everybody giving some remarks initially. I'm going to start by introducing our panelists. I'm going to introduce our first panelist here to my left is Karina Franco, who is, I want to start out by saying she was a student in my History of Mexico class, my very first semester here at UTSA, and she was very nice and very gracious, even though I'm sure I was completely clueless in many ways.
Clueless together.
She was very, very nice and very good student, and I kept seeing her around campus even after she graduated because she has been working here in the library. She is now head of access services at UTSA Libraries. She's a first generation non-traditional student. She earned her associate's degree from San Antonio College and then did her bachelor's in history here at UTSA. And then she did a master's of science in information science at the University of North Texas. She began her career as a student worker in special collections. I'm looking at one of you who's working in special collections now. And she has since worked her way into library leadership. Our second panelist, who's right next to Karina, is Edward Dovalina, who suffered through my senior seminar before the pandemic, before we all got wise. I got wiser to technology. Edward graduated from UTSA in 2018 with a BA in history. He did the social studies concentration and teacher certification. In 2022, he earned a Master of Education in School Counseling. He's certified as a teacher in social studies, ESL, English as a second language, and school counseling through the Texas Education Agency. And he's also a licensed professional counselor associate. He spent 5 years teaching high school social studies before transitioning into school counseling. He currently works as a school counselor at Anson Jones Middle School, and he recently launched his private practice, Come and Talk Counseling, where he provides therapy for young adults.
Thank you all for being here, and thank you to your wonderful professors. You are today our prisoners, thanks to them. Your lovely presence here, and we appreciate their lovely presences here. Thank you. So Katelyn Grun,
Yes.
she is the director of philanthropy at Guide Dogs of Texas. I love dogs. She holds a BA in history and a graduate degree in educational leadership and policy studies from UTSA. She started her professional life in K through 12 education, then transitioned to working in higher education and alumni relations, which is a tough job. So thank you for doing that. Her path led her to the nonprofit sector, where she now serves an organization whose values align closely to her own. Katelyn actively pursues professional development to strengthen her leadership and impact. So thank you for all of that. That's wonderful. Alex Sundin, former student of mine, as is Karina, so we're very blessed that they said yes. Alex is a teacher of world history and world geography in the San Antonio area with experience in both Northside ISD and Edgewood ISD. He earned a BA in history with a social studies teaching certification and a BA in anthropology at UTSA. Go interdisciplinary studies. He has spent the past 5 years in the classroom helping students think critically about the world and its past. And boy, do we need to think critically about the world. So thank you so much, all of you. We are blessed to have you here today. The stage is yours.
Back to tell you all, we have a recording going on for people who aren't able to be here, who are in class or something tonight. And so we're asking our speakers to use a little microphone that they'll pass around as they speak. And if you have questions in the Q&A, we may repeat them into the microphone for you, just so we get better sound.
Okay. All right. I guess I'll start off. Like they mentioned before, my name is Karina Franco. I am the head of access service here at UTSA Library. So I work here. I work for you all. I started, like they mentioned, I am a non-traditional student. So basically, I worked for a while after I graduated high school. Once I graduated high school, I started school at San Antonio College, then transferred over to UTSA in 2016. Then I went over to, 2014, sorry, it's been 15 years or so. But I transferred over here 2014, and then 2016, I graduated my bachelor's in history. And then after that, I started my career in libraries. And then what I did was I started working at Access Services. I get a lot of questions about Access Services at UTSA Libraries. And that's the front desk of the library. So everybody that you see working at the front desk is the people who work with me or work for me. So I pretty much started working there after my student teaching, my internship with special collections. From there, I started as a library assistant and moved my way up to head of access services. So it's been a very challenging few years for me because I am a non-traditional student. I didn't go right after high school. I went a little bit afterwards. So I was that kid that would go to school in the evenings, and I would go before the internet classes, by the way. So I would go in person. So I would go in person in the evenings, and then I would come to work as well full time. I feel like all my jobs that I've had over the years, I went from working in restaurants, working in a medical department and medical records. I worked in Blockbuster, if anybody remembers Blockbuster. Yeah, so all those things have really very much prepared me for where I'm at today. I feel like, I was like, when I worked at Blockbuster, I like to put things in order. And I'm like, oh, look, I look at work at a library now, putting things in order. But yeah, so it's been really great for me. Here, I really much appreciated, all the professors here at UTSA when I was coming here. I'm really appreciative for Dr. Gonzalez and Dr. Komisarek for providing the resources they did for me and everything. One of my biggest advice for you all is that talk to your professors, reach out to your professors. They're your greatest allies. Talk to your library folks. We are your allies as well. I'm there for you, so are my people at the front desk and everybody. So they're the ones that help you out and, help you along the way. I mean, it's just, it's great. I was asked about I was thinking about it over the week because, I got asked to be part of this panel, and I was just like, how do I explain like how I got into this career that I'm in today? And honestly, I feel like I didn't choose the libraries chose me. Because I remember being in one of my classes with Dr. Reynolds, I believe. It was called History in the Public. I don't know if it's still being available. Yeah. So History in the Public. I remember him talking to us about all the various different aspects that history careers can take us, because it's not just one standard, set track, right? So I was like, I was hearing him and I was listening, and he said, well, there's this area, there's teaching, there's, archiving, and there's, libraries, and I, like a light went off, I was like, oh, libraries sound cool, archiving was actually my initial love, I was finally finding out that it was silly of me, but I called it, you can file history. I was like, you can file history and they show everybody, that was great, and so I thought that was really great to know about, and I just wanted to know more about it. I wanted to learn more about it. And when the professors came to let us know, like, hey, reach out to us, come to our office hours, discuss those things with us, I did. That's what you do. You go out of your way and ask your professors, like, hey, how do I get to that point? If you don't know, because I didn't know, I wasn't sure. I was walking around clueless myself. So I did. I talked to my professors, and, I was lucky enough for Professor Komisarek to reach out to us and let us know that special collections opportunity was available. I went in there, I took it, I learned about it, and it went from there, and I'm very lucky to be where I'm at today. I'm very blessed, so I would say also that I always tell people, this is my last thing because I'm gonna go off and talk forever, but my last thing would be that I always say there's no deadline in life. I'm speaking from my own experience. You create your own deadline, right? We all create our own deadline. And this deadline that we create, we always set these timelines for ourselves. And at the end of the day, who's setting that timeline? You. So you are more than welcome to move that timeline, that deadline, that goal date from wherever time frame you want it to, in whatever direction you want it to, as long as you're happy at the end of the day. Because I'm very much happy at the end of the day, even though I started 10, 15 years later than I thought I did when little Karina, started out academically. So yeah, that's pretty much it on my end. Thank you.
So good evening, everybody. Oh, that was weak. Good evening. So my name is Edward Dovalina. I started in education in 2018. So I came here for a bachelor's in history, concentration and social studies. Just side note, this is actually my wife, Katelyn. We met in student teaching at Rawlinson. So anybody gonna be teachers in here? Anybody? Make sure to talk to people. You never know who you'll meet. So, so I started there, and I started teaching, and I taught at high school for about 5 years. And in that process, for those of you that are teachers, what I realized really quickly is that I cared a lot. I don't want to say more, but about the student relationships. And I was that teacher that, I had kids in my room from 8 o'clock all the way till 5 o'clock, just talking about their lives and talking about what they want to do and the troubles that they would go through at home. And so I quickly realized that I wanted to go a different route. I do miss teaching history. I love history, but I'm now a school counselor at Anson Jones Middle School. It's kind of funny because I'm like really nervous right now because I normally just talk to middle schoolers. So it's like way different. So I've been doing school counseling, and the one thing I just wanted to say to bring it in with history is our skills are so transferable. And what I mean by that is like, especially the research. Every day I work in one of the most economically disadvantaged schools in Northside. About 78% of our students are eco-dis. And so I am constantly researching ways to like help them find nonprofits to go to access resources, whether that be counseling, food, clothing, tennis shoes. And so like all of that is research and stuff that I had to get used to. Love school counseling. And then pretty recently, I wanted to do my LPC counseling. And so if you decide to go school counseling, anybody in here, to be an LPC, a private practice, it's only like 4 more classes that you need for your master's degree. And so I went that route, and as you see on my thing, it says LPC associate. What that means is that LPCs have to get 3,000 hours of internship, and that means meeting with clients. And so luckily for school counselors, all of my workday counts as hours. So it's really easy for me. But so in a year and a half, hopefully I'll be fully licensed. And so, but right now as an LPC, I started my own business. Again, that research, right? Most people like to start a business, like especially for LPCs, they usually pay thousands of dollars in order to get lawyers to start your PLLC. I didn't need to. I just researched it, right? And took my time and found all that information. And so I'm now seeing young adults. And yeah, I mean, it's been really fun. A lot of our skills are transferable. Please don't think you have to be just a teacher. I hate when I have kids now that in middle school that say, I want to major in English, I want to major in history, but I don't want to be a teacher. And it's like, there's so many other options, right? A lot of jobs require really in-depth writing. And I'll tell you, like, as a history major, I'm not bragging just on myself, but I know I'm a good writer. And I read some of the other teachers' emails. I'm like, what are you saying? So it's a great skill to like be able to send those emails real professional, and you get noticed really quickly. And so that's me. Thank you.
Wow. Well, I was gonna tell them we're married, but took that way. Sorry, I've been sitting all day. I'm Katelyn Grun. I was a little non-traditional in a way too. So I actually started at UTSA. I was the kind of kid in school who never did homework because I would do it in class. I didn't know how to study. I knew how to take naps. And so when I came to UTSA, I would take a nap and not do homework. I got kicked out on academic probation after my first semester. My GPA was a 1.8. Incredible, I know. Impressive. So I actually lost the day before classes. I got a notification from financial aid that I had lost all my scholarships and my classes were dropped. And I had no idea what that even meant because nobody had ever explained to me how anything worked. And I was very lost. I went to Northwest Vista, which San Antonio colleges are amazing. I'll always say that. And I got back on track. I was able to go into a smaller class and really realize I needed to get my stuff together. But it was the best year, I think, as a young adult I could have asked for because things got real really fast. And I developed a lot of really good skills at the Alamo colleges that really prepared me to be a good student at UTSA. Once I got back, I realized I really liked history, but I didn't know what that meant for me. So my mom was a teacher, so of course I'll be a teacher. That's the only thing you can do with a history degree is what you hear. So I kind of got into upper level history courses, and I really, really liked Mexican American studies and borderland studies, which in 2016 was very interesting. I remember being in class during the first election that Trump was a part of. That was a really interesting conversation about borderlands, and it got me thinking that I love history, but I love what history means for us now. And so I realized that maybe I can teach students to care about now, which was a big, maybe that's what all teachers think, but I really thought I can make them care the way I care. So I went into student teaching and realized that wasn't going to happen. And that's okay. It just wasn't a good fit for me. I think it's a really, Eddie does it every day, and he did it every day, and he's so good at it. It wasn't for me. But I started thinking, okay, I have a degree. I love academia. What can I do? And so I came back to UTSA, and I went to an info session about graduate program in education. And it was K through 12. I thought, okay, maybe I'll be an admin. I like bossing people around. That'll be great. And then I realized, well, you have to teach for a few years first. Okay, I don't want to do that. Well, at the info session, they had someone representing the higher education program, which I have no idea you can work at a college. I've seen people work at colleges in the library. I didn't realize, I didn't know that was the whole thing. So I ended up getting my master's in educational leadership and higher education administration. And so I got to serve students who were at the college level in a new way. And so I worked in student affairs. I worked in student union. This building, I was a part of when they were picking this carpet, which is crazy now that I'm here seeing it. It's weird. I was just telling Alex, I was like, we picked those credenzas out like 6 years ago. But I realized there's other ways to affect people's lives. There's so many ways to affect people's lives. And then I went into alumni relations. I thought this is cool. And then I started thinking about the mission. Like, I want to affect people's lives. What does that mean? And then I went into nonprofit work, which was really scary to have a master's degree in education and leave education. And I think to both y'all's points is like, there's no timeline. There's no like, wow, I invested all my time into education, I have to stay there, because education is everywhere. Every job you do, if you're doing a good job, is educating someone. And what I found in nonprofit work is educating people on the amazing people out there. I worked for Guide Dogs of Texas, so we raise and train guide dogs for the blind. And my job is to tell people how amazing Texans who are blind are and how the dogs impact their lives. And so my whole job is storytelling, which we learn a lot about in history. We write really good emails and we write really good grants, which is the same as a persuasive paper that I wrote plenty of. And so my skills, to Eddie's point, are super transferable. I sit at my computer and I convince people why they want to do something, which is half of what we've done as a history major, is putting the context together, putting the research that we've gotten and finding out, who do I want to send this email to and why should they care? That's the research. So I would encourage anyone to just don't feel like you're putting yourself in a box. History is the most transferable education you'll ever get. And maybe I think that because I'm a history major, but history is context, and you need context for any job you do. The last thing I'll say, because it took me a long time to get to where I am now. It took a lot of jobs. It took a lot of soul searching and figuring out it wasn't a good fit, and it was really scary to leave a job. But you have to, and I kind of figured out, I like this about this job, but 90% of it I don't. So where can I go where this 10% will turn into half of what I do? And then I went there and I said, okay, I really like this, but maybe I don't like that as much as I thought. And you move on, and that's okay. I think it's really scary. And people tell you like, that you have commitment issues, or you're, my dad's like, you're a gypsy. He always says that to me. And I'm like, no, I just want to do a job I'm good at and that I like. And that's okay. So I want to express that, because even, today, literally at this moment, I'm having this conversation with my mentor is, am I getting what I need out of my current job? And what does that look like? And so never feel afraid, and don't make decisions based on fear of the unknown, or you're not good enough to expect more, or everywhere is bad, so just stay with what you're comfortable with. I will tell you from experience, that's a really dangerous hole to go down. So have confidence when you leave your program. Have confidence that you deserve to do a job you like. And if that means you have 4 jobs you don't like first, it's okay. You have plenty of time. It's okay. So that's really for me, I think. Guide Dogs of Texas is cool. If you like dogs, you can come play with puppies. Ask me after this if you want to know how. Here you go.
How's it going, everybody? Thank you for having me, by the way. I'm Alex Sundin. I'm a true San Antonian. I was born and raised here, educated here, went to high school in Alamo Heights. Don't hold it against me. I got my undergrad here. I started in 2015. I graduated during the pandemic. I'm going to be one of those people in like 30 years time where they're like, wow, grandpa walks the stage finally. So I graduated on a PowerPoint, but when how many future teachers do we have here? People that are interested in education. Hello. This is also interesting because for 2 reasons. Normally, one, when I'm standing in front of a classroom, it's heads are down behind computers. It's kind of odd seeing all of your eyes. And secondly, this is nice for me, a little humble brag, but not only do I have a coworker here, Mr. Ward, Colin Ward, who's your fellow student, literally works across the hall from me. So He was not at work today, so that will be a conversation. But not only that, but yeah, I wonder what was going on there. But not only do I have a coworker, but I have literally a former student here, which is really cool. So Pablo, good to see you again, my friend. Yeah, I was on the 5-year track at UTSA, got a history and social studies degree, and I was a kid that had no idea what I was going to do when I graduated. I just knew I loved history and I just wanted to devour history classes. Probably, and this is going to sound funny, but the best advice I got in my undergrad was from my older brother who said, when you're an undergrad, be weird. Just be as weird as possible. Say yes to everything. And so I signed up for an anthropology class and it completely changed my life. And so I got a BA in anthropology as well. And, even to the point where the pandemic hit, I was in student teaching. I tell this as kind of a joke story, but I was student teaching on the west side at Edgewood Memorial High School, Go Minutemen. And about 2 weeks before COVID hits, there was a kid, if you've been a teacher, you always got one class that's just full of shysters. And these 2 kids in the back never shut up, always doing stuff. So I go over there, I'm trying to talk to them, and they're saying, "Hey, sir, I'm really scared about this COVID thing that's coming." I'm nearly 30, so I went through the swine flu. So I was like, you're going to be totally fine. That night, I'm playing D&D with my friends, and I start feeling kind of sick. And I get the flu, I think. But they tell me in precaution, don't come to school this week. Just take it off. I'm 21 years old. I'm like, sweet. All right, cool. No school, no work. I get to go home. COVID breaks out that week, and I never see these kids again. And I always say, Johnny Villa on the west side is saying, I had the student teacher who died. He was probably patient zero. Yeah, when I graduated college here, again, I graduated with a degree in history and anthropology. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I always thought with the background in education that, it'll be my fallback if anything ever happens. And so the first thing I was doing was writing grants for Meals on Wheels. Shout out Meals on Wheels if anyone is a part of that. And then I worked with the city. Actually, before that, I thought, what I should do is I should go to law school, and studying for LSATs during a global pandemic, not the move. So I then worked with the city on the vaccine rollout. We were signing people up to get vaccinated literally in the Alamo Dome parking lot. So I started college getting sunburned in the Alamo Dome parking lot, and I finished getting sunburned in the Alamo Dome parking lot. And I did my student teaching at Memorial, and they had an opening in the summer of 2021. And so I went there, and like everyone here has said before me, history, getting a degree in history is so much more than just knowing stuff. My lovely girlfriend, if she was here, she would make fun of me because, I think when we say we study history, it's like, oh, I'm the oracle. I know all things. And we had a conversation once where I had no idea who Catherine the Great was because I didn't take any Eastern European history. I only focused on borderland studies. I was like, I know all about Jose Marti, though. Like, what about him? Ask me about Jovita Dar. In my classes, I think that my professors, and again, I was really cynical when I was in undergrad. I thought there was 2 kinds of history students. There was us, the real people that are about it, and just the people that want to be teachers. And I was really annoying about that when I was that age. But because again, when you're 18, the only thing you really have expertise on is education. You've been there for 12 years. Hopefully, you know something about what it's like to be in a school. And I think when I stepped into classrooms, I realized, I actually don't really know anything about what it's like to be a teacher. I know a bunch about being a history student and what it means to love history, but being in a classroom is completely different. And you go off what you see in front of you. I feel like my teaching has been so inspired by the professors that I've had here. Dr. Gonzalez was, immense to my understanding of this concept and just kind of knowing this area around me. Dr. Catherine Clinton, almost every day I think to myself when I'm saying something that's awesome, I'm like, this is what Catherine Clinton must feel like. Dr. Nolan Farrell, she probably does not recognize me at all, but thank you very much. I think that feels good. But even, my non-history teachers, shout out Bob Hard, If you know Robert Hard, he's a great anthropology professor. Deborah Moon Wagner. These people really changed how I Ward Alvaro. I don't know if he's still around. I hope so. He was like a poli-sci professor, but again, their expertise really changed everything for me. And as a teacher, I've always been kind of a yes man. The joke I've always said is that I've said yes to everything, and everything I've said yes to has nearly gotten me fired. So I started the anthropology club at UTS, or at not UTSA. I was a part of it at Memorial High School. We started a current events club at Memorial High School. We started a debate club at Memorial High School, and then at Marshall, I started another current events club. In our first year, we went to the equivalent of what regionals is. Shout out my girl Izzy Sowell for doing that. In my first year, they asked me to be the tennis coach. Did not expect to do that, and I did that for 2 years. Shout out Pablo, he was on the team. In our 2 years as the tennis coach, we had 2 back-to-back winning seasons and a playoff appearance, first time ever. So I know that felt really awesome. Humble brag, but yeah, I think that I don't want to sound like the town grump, but education is a strange place. 5 years ago, I think the education space was weird to begin with, but the AI revolution and frankly the literacy crisis that I see in front of me is worrisome, and to a certain extent, it feels like there aren't good solutions to it. And I will also say, not to be so down and out, but every class is different, every student is different. Never label a school that you're at by what people want to label it as. I had some of the most incredible experiences of my life at Edgewood Memorial. I still plan on going back there someday. I've loved being at Marshall High School. Marshall is a very interesting community. We have 22 languages spoken on our campus. I know when a kid is cursing me out in Pashto, which is I never would have guessed. 2 years ago, I did a week of fasting for Ramadan with some kids. That was quite unique. But yeah, I mean, I think my best advice, speaking to the future teachers, and sorry to exclude anyone that's not there, but you have to know your why. You have to know what's going into the classroom. Some people go into the classroom because they love the content. They just want to talk about history. You've had the classic history teacher that just wants to stand there and chat. You're looking at him. But I think I'm a mix of that, and I just love having students around me. I've always been interested in mentoring people. And again, Mr. Ward can attest to this. He and I are like the same. Our classrooms are full of kids at all times, because that's what I'm there for. And I will say this, and again, not to sound really bleak, but I learned a statistic while I was at UTSA that like 35% of first 5-year teachers will develop a substance abuse problem at some point. And it's true. I mean, you will see it, and it's tough. And I think that the best case of action is be able to separate your life from the job you do. This is not a job that you can just leave at campus. These kids really rely on you, especially the more you open yourself up and have good friends around you. I've been blessed to have a good group of friends around who even went to the tennis matches. It's like, what are you guys doing here? Having a strong community around you who are going to build you up is, beyond important. But, and I think, just to add a little bit more about, not only do I think we're in a literacy crisis, I think we have a critical thinking crisis. And that's something that as a teacher, you have to try to bring in and try to be not just someone who's going to teach critical thinking, but you need to model it yourself. You need to be someone that these kids see as an opportunity of, I want to be like Colin Ward someday. Like, he is an awesome example in front of me. I want to do that. And so I do want to be Colin Ward someday. But yes, thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor.
Thank you to all our panelists. We have time for questions, discussion. Raise your hand if you have. I know you all have for you.
All right, you can go for it. Go ahead. Okay. This is a general question for all of you. At what point did you realize that, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do for a very long time? Was there like a was it like at the beginning or at some point you realized it clicked for you?
For my like nerdy millennials of my age, you might know who John Green is, the Vlog Brothers. Way back when he one time in a video talked about how the biggest disservice we do in our lives is that we view life as you go to public school, you pick your career, you get married, you finish your career and die. And I've always wanted to live life as chapters. And so this is my 5th year in teaching. I'm probably not going to be in education for much longer, not because I don't want to be in teaching, but because there's more to life than this. You are actually all ahead of me. This is funny too. I plan on hopefully getting my PhD one day, and you gotta get your master's first. And so y'all are actually all a step ahead of me. So who am I talking to you guys? But I mean that's where I currently sit as in my process of aging.
You say it's so sad. Aging's a thing. Yeah, I still don't know what I'm doing. Honestly, I never had like a really aha moment. I think I kind of talked about like, I like this, I don't like that. Oh, I do like this. I will say though, in the last year, what I do now, is philanthropy, and I've really felt like it's my calling, and I'm 30, so don't feel bad. It takes time, and yeah, I think I finally just was doing something every day that I enjoyed. That was really powerful because it sometimes takes a long time to get there. But exactly like what Alex said is, I'm like, yeah, I'll do this for 5 years and then maybe I'll try leadership, or maybe I'll try something else. Maybe I'll try mentoring people or consulting. I really think it's important to not have a timeline for yourself and see what happens, because you really have to do what's right for you in this moment. And we know things are always changing. And so you just have to be willing to change with your own life. I think that's very important.
So
You're the opposite. He's like, I've known I wanted to do this.
yeah. So my wife, I've kind of gone on the journey with her of bouncing around everywhere. But for me, I knew what I wanted to do pretty early. I thought I was going to be teaching, but for me, I remember the day exactly. I was at Health Careers High School. That's where I was teaching. It's also where I graduated. So I was teaching there, and there was this kid that usually not, he was smart, but he would always ace everything and he would turn everything in, and he was a great student. And I remember one day he came in, and about the week his grade was slowly dipping, going down, and he wasn't turning anything in. And I was frustrated. I was a teacher, the grades were due, right? It was report card week, and like, kid, I need you to turn this in. And I remember like talking to him kind of aggressively and like, hey, dude, what is going on? And he just broke down and like just started crying in my office. And his parents, there was domestic violence, and his dad had like beat up his mom, and that's why he wasn't turning anything in. And in that moment, I remember checking myself for my bias. And as the future teachers in here, this is really important. You do not know what these kids are going through every day. And for you, you care about your grades, or you care about this new TIA thing, teacher incentive allotment, where you give a lot of money if your kids do great on the STAR, but you don't know what they are going through every day and what they go home to. And you really are a safe place. School is a safe place. It's the consistency in a lot of people's lives. And so for me, that led me to really think about like, that's the area I want to help kids in, right? It's not just academics, it's the social emotional part of it as well, because that's the foundation. For the teachers in here, you probably heard of the Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? Like starts in the foundation, right? Feeling safe. And so that was my moment that I knew I wanted to go into the school council.
That's a good question. I think for me, it's pretty funny. If you ask me that question, like in a different stage of my life, I would give you a different answer each time. Like 2-3 years ago, I would have given you a different answer than I would have given you today. And right, going more and more in there. But I think when I started working in access services, I started working the front. Honestly, when I applied for the job, I did not know I was going to be the front desk. I didn't even know what it was, right? So when I went in, And they started asking me questions about customer service, which I've done customer service for 10 years before that. I was like, oh, got this, you know? So I went in there in the library and I was like, I got this, you know? So when I started working in access services at the library, which is the front desk, I said, oh, I thought I wanted to be in archiving. And then I loved, you know, the front desk. And that's where I started growing a passion for it. Then I was like, I could do this. This is great. But what am I going to do with this? You know, where am I going? Because I don't know. Like she said, you know, when you try to get into education, you don't know everybody who works in the background sometimes. Like nobody knows who works in libraries, you know, everybody gets surprised about our degrees and where we at and where we go. Right. So when I started working at Access Services, I was a library assistant. And then I started supervising student workers. And then I said to myself, oh, I really like supervising. This is great. I'm the oldest girl, you know, so I'm really good at being bossy. So I was like, this is great. I'm really good at this. And I kind of like this. I also get to be a mentor for the students, you know, for our college students and provide them the assistance while still talking to the students out there at the front desk. So I really enjoyed that. So at that time I said, I really like what I'm doing here, you know, but what can I do next? So that's when I started talking to my supervisors and seeing what they do. You know, how did they get to where they're at? So once I started getting into my senior library role, I started talking to the library managers, you know, and just to give you guys a fun fact, you only need a bachelor's degree for library manager positions for some of them in some areas. And then I was like, I want to go further. Like I really was enjoying this trajectory, right? Then I found out that I need a master's in order for me to, you know, get into a department head role or a subject librarian or anything like that. So I pursued initially thinking that I wanted to be, so with masters in the libraries, there's like various different ways to enter into the library world. There's library science, there's information science. I always say that library science is more of like an outreach, subject librarians, school librarians, etc. Right? And I initially pursued that, but then I realized it wasn't the pathway that I particularly enjoyed for myself because I really enjoyed doing the administrative part, being the manager, being all that stuff. So I decided to pursue information science. Information science is more analytical, more technology based, all that stuff. And that's where the world is going, right? With data and everything. So I really, really enjoyed that part. So I decided to go in that direction. And when I did, I was lucky enough to pursue my position at the department head. And now I'm a department head. And then I looked at the dean and I was like, I kind of want his job next. You know, so now I'm like, want to go further. So I have to look to see what that, and he's so excited about it. He's like, yes, definitely, Karina, let's do this. You know, what do you want? What do you need? What resources do you want? So that's where I see myself now, is looking at my boss, looking at my boss's boss and going, I want to pursue where you're at because I want to be a leader in education and help out with that. So yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you. That was great. Walter, you had a question before, I think.
I was actually interested, a lot of you, maybe all four or three have experience at Alamo colleges. I wondered if you have high school and obviously UTSA, I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about Alamo colleges, the things that you learned there, and what do you think those students really could benefit from learning history? I mean, it could be brief, just talk a little bit about it.
Like my experience at Alamo College?
Yeah, what did you learn and what do you think students there really need?
Man, it's a long time ago, so let me look back in my time machine. I would say Alamo Colleges really gives you the flexibility to pursue and look at, because that's when I knew I was like really interested in history, because you get to explore different types of areas and different types of courses. And because of that flexibility, I was able to just like dip my toes into everything. And without having to feel because before I was in school before, like they were giving I guess like the tuition was free or whatever, you know, I had to pay, you know, so so I was able to do that at a lower cost. You know, if I went to a bigger state school, university, or anything like that. So it gave me a greater breathing room to like explore courses and like get into it. And the fact that they had evening courses available for me as well and all that. So I would say I think the students there should really make use of all that and be able to know that there's flexibility out there for them. But that's pretty much summarizes my experience at Alamo Colleges. I don't know.
I mean, beyond like what I think all of us know, the smaller classes, right? And I learned way more, felt more comfortable asking questions. I think what people need to know, and for me as a school counselor, what I tell my middle schoolers and when I work with high schoolers is that there's like sometimes a stigma a little bit going to Alamo colleges. And I think it's a great stepping stone for so many kids. And honestly, I think the education system, I don't want to say just high schools, I think it's K through 12. I think we do a big disservice to kids because we make them make these really big financial decisions at 18 and they know nothing yet. And like these kids, they want to go to, nothing against it. And I'm not trying to, make anybody feel bad, but like I have kids that want to be teachers, but they want to go to Harvard. And I'm like, hey, but I know the salary and it's going to be a while before you pay that back. And so like, I think the Alamo colleges have so much opportunity and they have great teachers. And I seriously think from like 18 to 20, like you should go there because you're still figuring out what you really want to do. And so before they get into debt and before all that pressure amounts on themselves, I think it's a great option. And that's what I promote to a lot of my kids. I also don't think college is everything. I really don't. A lot of my kids, like they love working with their hands. And so I push them to go to technical schools, be electricians and plumbers and join the military because you don't have to have a college degree to make money.
Right.
That's mine.
Yeah, all of that. For sure, yeah. Yeah, y'all
know,
know I needed Alamo colleges. I would say the smaller classes for me really taught me that I could talk to my professor. Because when you start at UTSA, you're put in a lecture hall with 300 people, and you probably don't go up to the stage and talk to your professor. And that was life-changing for me. When I started talking to the professor, realizing they were a human and they cared about me, I brought that with me when I came back to UTSA. And I don't think any of us can say it enough. Talk to your professors because they care about you. I know they're not going to be able to individually seek each one of you out and set up an appointment, right? Like you have to take that first step sometimes with your professors, but once you do, that connection and that support is so valuable. And it's also, it can be a lifelong relationship in professional relationships. And I think that's something that even as young as middle school is teaching students about mentorship and the importance of relationships, because we don't always get to pick our family or the people around us. But we can pick who we bring into our lives in other ways. And when I brought Dr. Jerry Gonzalez was my my academic mentor / bestie when I was in school here, it changed my life. I felt so powerful and so cared about like I never had in my entire life. And the fact that I opened the door to accept that support changed the way I think about everything I do now. Even as a professional, I email people and I'm like, hey, I really liked your lecture. Will you be my professional mentor? And they're like, sure, I'm shocked you asked me that, but sure. And that's never a bad thing. So I think that's something we can always really push high schoolers, middle schoolers, Alamo colleges, while they're in a small classroom, where you have easier access to students. I think if you're looking at being a professor or anything, like if you can seek out telling students, hey, I'm here for you, do it, because I know I needed it. Like I really needed it. And I'm glad that I gained the confidence to approach a professor, which is really hard for students. It's really hard. So if you can encourage kids to have the confidence to do that, I think that's really important.
I took 2 classes at Alamo College over a summer, so I'm not necessarily the expert, but I will just say this, the greater access that we have to education, the better our society is. Community college is so unbelievably important for low-income students. I mean, just writ large, and I think that that avenue to get past the barrier of entry to education is just so important. It's something that we should be prioritizing. And I totally believe in the adage of wherever you go, there you are. I took my 2 economics classes to fulfill my need over the summer of 2017. And my first professor there was a UIW professor. Very smart guy. He was a big cyclist. He came in reeking because it was the summer in San Antonio. And so that's all I remember him. But I took another professor who was a St. Mary's professor, also doing courses, last name Laraca. He and I did not see eye to eye at all. And he and I would sit front row and he and I would basically argue for 2 hours. But I probably learned more about economics and macroeconomics from him than anyone I've ever learned from, even though he and I were on complete opposites of a political spectrum. And I think that's important. I think that we really do a disservice about seeing community college and thinking that it's lesser education. But the 2 professors I had were 2 private school in town professors. How many of us know fellow professors that are here that are also teaching? And I say this with love, and none of the professors that are in the room follow this, but I also took professors at UTSA that I thought, I'm not learning a dang thing from this person. They're here going through the motions. Like, I think that just because you're at a university compared to community college does not mean that the experience is different. It's all about how you are going to approach that educational experience.
Thank you.
Of course.
I was wondering if you guys have any advice regarding like seeking jobs pertaining to history. Sometimes I have a hard time coming up with skills. I mean, I know like critical thinking and writing is definitely important, but sometimes I think that and then I hit a wall. I was just wondering if you guys have any advice.
Up to this point, probably the most important skill I have from my degree is public speaking. And I've been saying this entire time, so I don't know if I'm doing a good job, but I think that's probably the most crucial. You're taught to think outside the box. You're taught to think creatively. I mean, I know we like to surmise our space by just going to teaching, but I mean, as my fellow panelists can attest to, if you think outside the box, it can really open up any doors. Hopefully that doesn't feel like too much of a non-answer, but.
I was gonna say, ask ChatGPT. Here's my skills. I would say start everywhere you go, start thinking about the people that work there. I started doing that in school. I would walk into a museum and I would say, what departments does a museum have? And look on their website, look at their directory. The amount of jobs behind the scenes at like a petroleum company is insane. So there's historians at companies, right? They just have different titles. And so looking at directories, looking at what their job descriptions are and trying to see, hey, I can relate to that. I think I could apply my skills to that. And just apply. Because as someone who's hired a lot of people and gone through a lot of applications, people apply for anything. And you have to, because if you don't apply, you certainly won't get the job. So even if you're unsure, talk yourself into it, apply, and then figure it out. I've worked a lot of jobs that I probably knew how to do. And that's okay because you're learning. But libraries are great. Any corporations, I would say HR is great. If you love reading and policies, I love policies. HR, fantastic. SOPs, there's entire departments that write standards of operations, which is super fun. You look at old standards, research new standards, and then you combine them. It's so fun. So just think about what's out there and start thinking about things differently. Even at UTSA, I mean, there's so many jobs behind the scenes. In this building, particularly, student affairs, student union, library services down the way. There's so many jobs that you don't see the people working, but they're doing it. And again, history, we're pretty great. So we have really transferable skills and you just have to convince yourself that and then convince other people that. That's really it.
She stole mine. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, like literally research so like whatever you're passionate in, find the companies that work in that area. And then as she said, look in the directory and there's jobs like you don't think of. Also, if you don't have a LinkedIn, like get a LinkedIn and reach out to people. People love talking about themselves. So if you reach out and you say like, hey, I'm interested in just what you do, a lot of the time, I mean, my wife got her current job from LinkedIn. And so it's a great way to find on there, but that would be My recommendation.
I think the big word here was research, you know, there's so many different ways to say the word research. And a lot of jobs look for people who do research, you know, analyzing, you know, project management. When you do your outlines, you guys are project management, creating outlines for project management, you know, budgets, you know, so like I think about my job. I have to write a proposal or, you know, ask for more laptops for you all here. You know, I have to do research and analyze different data, analyze different historical data, analyze current trends and put it all together and bring it forward to my supervisors and let them know like, hey, this is why we need it for. And this is the things that I expect from my employees. I have a few employees that report to me, so I always look for people who know how to go out there and research the things that I need to give that justification to everybody to make sure that they get what they need to get. So those big words, the word research comes into play, but that is something that a lot of industries look for. Big one is project management, hint, 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 hint.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll find it in the words. There's always different types of ways to relook at it and, you know, look it up online. That's what I would say is just like, how many different ways to say research? Oh, look it, there it is, you know? So, but yeah, you know, in the library world, it's a very broad, you know, we have our catalogers, we have our metadata specialists, we have our subject librarians who do a lot of teaching, you know, so there's different things that you can use with your history degree to get towards that. So, yeah.
This is a simple question on the offer. But did you find any like jobs in like the financial or business field with your degree? Did anything like that pop up? Oh, it's like we say, well,
I think she's the closest.
Yeah,
Probably you.
fun fact. I started as a business major and then had to take math. Stop doing that. But I would say, so I work in philanthropy and my job is to make money. And I'm the only person, so I'm responsible for bringing in 100% of the revenue for my organization. So 1.2 million a year. Just people donating. So if you have any rich friends or family, let them know you had a great time. No,
And it's all with the chip in.
yeah, $1 from 100 people. So my brain, again, history is context to me, and I think business is context. Business is sociology, business is psychology, that's marketing is psychology. So I think the things we learn in history, again, are super transferable to finance and business because we can learn trends and we can, I think our brains work a little differently sometimes, like in terms of organization, project management, business and finance. It's all about people and how people spend money and how people save money. And so if you can understand people, you can do business and finance. I will say with a history degree, a lot of business jobs want you to have a business degree, but if you can convince them that you understand business, you're fine. For me, I work with a guy that graduated from Texas State, boo, just kidding. Texas State with an accounting degree. He's a finance and accounting coordinator. Guess what he can't do? Coordinate finance and accounting because he's never had a job before. And the accounting was great, but he never learned the skills of how to work with people and how to work on a team and how to critically think. I was telling Alex, he was using ChatGPT for finance reports. Yeah, and you know, and hey, whatever. But what I'll tell you as a history major, I felt like I entered the workforce with a good understanding of what it meant to work. And maybe that's just me, but I feel like I understood working in groups on projects, putting information together to present it in a way that other people could understand, or maybe to persuade them. Those are things I knew how to do as soon as I graduated. And those skills are really important in today's job force. So again, if you can interview well and you can explain to people that you know how to talk to people, that's a huge thing. You can interview and talk to people. That's amazing.
If you don't know something, you're okay with figuring it out. I think
That's
a big thing for
huge.
her.
You don't know everything. I don't know a lot of things. But what I always tell my boss is if I don't know, I'll figure it out and I'll come back to you. And I know how to do that because I didn't know anything in school and I looked it up and I figured it out. So I think business, finance, anything you do, this is what you're learning here is preparing you for future, for sure. Anything? No,
That's great.
I tried to get my MBA, didn't work. I love learning.
You're supposed to say
It was-
bold future. Bold.
Oh, bold futures. Hey, but it's like you don't need anyway. I tried to do my MBA, but it was during COVID. Wow. 200 kids on a Zoom classroom. And I was trying to learn accounting. It didn't work. But guess what? I'm okay, so it's fine.
So it's a follow-up to that, and I love your answer, it's brilliant. So a lot of people don't make the connection between business and history, finance and history. What would you say to students who are just like focused on academics? And for whatever reason are not trying for the internships, not networking, that sort of thing. What advice would you give to people in terms of getting out there?
Yeah, so the question is, what advice would you give to students really focus on academics and maybe not necessarily putting focus on internships or networking? Well, the relationships, we kind of talked about, the relationships you make are really, really important. Similarly, what you learn in your history class, I used to know so many things about history. I don't remember them. But I didn't go to work and somebody asked me, like when Texas became a part of the Union. I do know that one, but nobody asked you for that specific information. People see a history person and they think, well, you just memorize dates and people's names. I'm like, I never did that. I can't. You seem really good at names. That's impressive. I'm not like that. So I think it's really important to develop your transferable skills that are your people skills and your relationships, because if you get an internship, you can get an idea of what a job is like. One, to find out if you want to do that job, because you should be interviewing your career as much as they're interviewing you, because it's 40 hours a week minimum of your life that you're spending. Like you should be really picky on how you're using your time. So interview people through an internship. That's important. Find out if you like it. Like I said, I did student teaching and I very quickly, it's not for me. And thank goodness that I figured that out before I signed a contract to be a teacher, right? But it's true, and that's okay. But networking is so important. As someone who works in philanthropy, I can't tell you the amount of walls I have run into that suddenly disappear when someone you know knows someone who knows someone. So build those relationships with your peers. You don't know who you're sitting next to right now, where they're going to be in 5 years, and what that could do, not selfishly for you, but what could that do for a student you know? What could that do for a friend you know? So just keep that in mind. Or you could be married to them, which that's all right too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but really, you never know. Do you have one? Yeah.
You know, the secret passcode to open most doors is hello.
Yes.
If you talk to people, not to be so cheesy, but to quote, a reference to my favorite movie. My favorite director is a guy named Richard Linklater, and he's making a movie called Dazed and Confused in 1994, and he cannot find the one character that he's looking for named Wooderson, and he's on 6th Street. He's angry, cannot find this guy. They walk into a bar and he's blowing off steam. He sits next to a guy and he starts talking about cards, baseball. Turns out that was Matthew McConaughey. Like, that's how he becomes a movie star, because he just started talking to him.
Yeah.
Like, you literally never know who you're going to start talking to. You just got to be able to put yourself out there. I actually think that I feel like I actually set myself back because of this, because I was that student when I was an undergrad, that I just wanted to be in the library. I wanted to be in the quiet study overlooking the main building every single day, just reading, devouring. And I definitely had people when I was here that were, hey, you should come internship with the downtown archives. Yeah, right. And maybe never reached out. And I definitely think about Wonder what would have happened if I followed that. Like, you never know unless you say hello. And you just don't know what those connections lead to. Put yourself out there, folks. You're UTSA Roadrunners. Okay, sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, office politics is a real thing.
Yeah.
You have to talk to people.
Yeah.
You have to, because I think I am the best school counselor on my campus, but I need stuff from everybody. My admin, I need stuff from them. I need stuff from teachers. I need stuff from the custodians. And you have to have good relationships. It doesn't matter if you're the smartest person in the building. It doesn't. Nobody wants to talk to you. You're not gonna get anything done. And it's just simple as that. And so you have to communicate with people. I think those are some of the most successful students, because they'll get the help when they need it. And honestly, like even in middle school, I see it where the really, really, really book smart kids, they start suffering because they can't even ask anybody for help because they don't know how. And so just communicate, like say hi to people, say good morning to people. You never know when you're going to need something from them. And that sounds like not selfishly, but you will need help from everybody that you work with. So have positive relationships, model good behavior. Yeah.
So I get the question a lot at the library of like when people say, I ask them, why do you want to work in the library? I get the answer, I really love to read books. You're not going to be sitting there reading books, everybody, when you work in the library. So you actually have to talk to people. You actually have to work with people and discuss things and, develop relationships with them, as everybody else here mentioned, so it's very rare to be, like, as mentioned earlier, like you just stay in your academic, I guess, zone to like just stay in that and like work in that as well. I mean, you'll be very, very lucky to have that if you do, because you develop something incredible for yourself, but for the most part, you are going to be forced into an industry somewhere along the lines, either education, either business, either any of this, either anywhere, that you're going to have to work with people. You're going to have to learn how to work with people. You're going to have to learn how to deal with all different types of personalities, all different types of life, everything. That's something that I've learned over the years, right? And you're going to have to learn how to communicate with each and every one at every different level that you have to do so in order for you to, quote unquote, move on up, right? So those are the things that, I highly recommend. I am a true testament of getting yourself out there and just going and just doing it, because you get to see so many things. I feel like I pressed the button and 20 doors opened when I went out of my way to talk to somebody about something, about where do I go or what do I want to do? It's an amazing and incredible feeling, even though it's scary. I'm telling you, I was scared. It's a scary moment. But once you open it, you're like, oh, because then you realize there's 10 or 20 other people who press that same button, that same door, just like you. And then they're your colleagues, they're your coworkers, they're everybody, and they're like, yeah, I went that same way. Even your professor was you at one point. You know what I mean? We were you at one point. I remember sitting in here. I remember, working 3 jobs at the same time and trying to go to the gym. It's crazy at 5 a.m, carrying a big old lunch bag, and so I was you at one point. I get it. It's a lot. You're stressed out. I think one of the things that I took away from my experience that I wish I would have done more in my undergrad was pay attention more to like the activities around me. Now that I work here, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can check out laptops. I was like, I brought this laptop with me all the way. I can check out textbooks for 2 hours. I'm letting you guys know, hello, promoting. I can check out textbook for 2 hours. There's a scanner over there. I could have just scanned some chapters instead of paying $60 for a book. It's there, guys. It's all available for you. And I would highly recommend to open up your eyes, lift up your head, and look at all the signs that are there. Trust me. Or look at your, bulletins or your emails and read, because things are out there for you. The library has stuff to offer for you guys. I'm there to give you calculators for 4 hours, headphones, all these different things that you guys can use now as a student or as an alumni. Well, actually, that's a different story. But, come at me at the front desk and I can talk to you. But there's things available. And those are the things that, you guys can benefit from to get that little push up, So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
Join the history club. That's your people right there.
Yeah.
Right there. That didn't exist when I was here. I had to join the anthropology society. It was cool, but I wish I would have been. That's literally your networking right there.
Club sports.
Yeah.
On that, I know that there's some students who are super introverted and maybe like even in a social situation, it's really, really tough. You guys are all on the part of your guys are representing and all this other kind of stuff. And what would you say to the students who want to fall into the back of the film and hide? And how do you encourage them to get into that networking and all that kind of stuff? Because I would agree that's sorry, is that like an awkward question?
No,
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
It's a very good question.
I'm the extrovert working amongst introverts in my department. I would say, it's silly to say, but like you can, there's thank God for technology now. Email people and ask questions, I guess. I don't know, it's a silly answer for that. But you know, how do you, I don't know. You just kind of find your people in the introvert world too, you know? I don't know. That's a really hard one. I have to think about that. I'll get back to me.
So I was actually like the total introvert in school. So like my bachelor's and master's, and I'm not bragging myself, but I had like a 4.0 and I sat in the back and did not talk to anybody. I tried to do that. Even in high school, I wore a big oversized jacket, still kind of do, and I just wasn't comfortable. A lot of it comes with experience. And just like there's that saying, I forgot where I heard it recently again, was like the world is full of a bunch of lonely people who haven't taken the first step. Right? Like so many people around you are also very afraid to take that first step, and you have to sometimes be that person and just start somewhere. Like ask them a question. You're sitting in history classes. What made you want to be a history? Ask them, what made you want to be a history student? It might sound dumb, but at least start the conversation, you know, like, or do you ever want to study together or just something, and just take that first step, because we are social creatures. And that's why I tell my middle schoolers, we're social creatures no matter what. You might think you are fine completely 100% by yourself. It's not true. It's not. People are social and we need to talk to others, and you just have to take that first step. Yeah, I mean, that's all I can say. So start somewhere, join clubs. Even as an adult, I'll say this, I have a crisis this year. I'm turning 30 this year in December. My wife's already 30. She's already old. But no, but like even as an adult, like after college, I'm gonna be real with y'all, it is really lonely. Like it can be seriously lonely as an adult, but I'm being serious, like as an adult, like keep your friends up and like go to clubs. Like if you like running, keep joining places. That is so important. We were talking at work about starting a book club. Like adult interaction is super important too, and like keep that going in adulthood, because you need those people to lean on. So hold those friendships tight.
Yeah, that's good. I have never been an introvert, but I have coaxed, forced a lot of introverts to be my friends. So what I will say to that is, if you are not an introvert, do your part and help the introverts in the room. Be aggressive. It's okay. Yeah, we were in probably 5 classes together. Never knew him. No, never knew him. And part of that isn't like, it's not anyone's fault. He wasn't in a place where he wanted to get involved. That wasn't what he was used to. I have always been a squeaky wheel because so I'm half blind. And so in K through 12, if I didn't say like, I want to learn this, they'd be like, don't worry about it. Just sit this lesson out. Don't worry about it. And so I, from a very young age, was like, oh, no, I want to learn like maps. Hello, I want to learn geography. So I've always been that way, but I also acknowledge that that's not super common. And so you can't expect everyone to be that way. And so, yeah, I'm aggressive. So I do my part by making people be my friend who maybe don't want to be. But it can be helpful. The other thing I would say is there are so many interesting things in the world you could be a part of. I just joined this club. It's called Executive Book Review for adults. And we read a book once a month, and we go to Incarnate Word where the nuns live, the nun house. And we talk about the book we read. It's called The Nun House.
Can anybody go?
Anybody can join and it's free. And
Great networking.
I love it. I never thought I would. I love it. We read the Courage to Be Disliked. Very good book. I sat in a circle with 5 nuns and 2 community members, and we talked about the book for an hour. And it was amazing. Never thought I would like something like that, but I did. So try things. It's okay to like be like, I really like fencing, and then go to a fencing practice and be like, I really don't like fencing. Let's try something else. That's okay too. But just give things a try, because you really never know. You never know. I mean, I think that's the moral of the story today, is like, try things, because you never know if you'll like a person. Say hi, see if you like them. You never know if you like a thing. I don't know. I think it's a good moral to live by. Also, like, it's okay to be rejected. I think that's the hardest thing. Rejection is really scary. And I think we internalize it a lot. I think a lot of people who say they're an introvert say that to protect themselves. And like, you're worth interacting with people, and people deserve to interact with you because you're great.
That was actually part of that book, The Courage to Be Disliked. It's based off of Adlerian theory, which is counseling. So the premise is that a lot of times when people say they don't like something or they're not good at something, it's to protect themselves from that. So like what she's saying is, like, when you say maybe, oh, I'm just an introvert, I can't talk to people, it's more of the fear of being rejected. So it's easier to just say, I'm just an introvert, I'm not even going to try. And so that's that premise.
Yeah.
Side note.
Yeah.
A really good book.
The Courage to Be Disliked. And then you can talk about it in executive book review. 3rd Thursday of every month at Incarnate Word.
And I mean, I don't mean to be a contrarian, but I'll also say, like, I think the opposite is true. I think that there are jobs there that are for introverts. I mean, I feel like I kind of did everything with a bachelor's in history. I worked in museum archives. I was an intern at the UTSA library when I was a student here. I've worked in the archive for the Center of Archaeological Research. I was a tour guide at the Alamo, and that was a strange job, but the highest people in that space were some of the most introverted people I know. Like, I think that we all have to accept that we are a social being, that you have to work with each other to a certain extent, but I don't think that you have to always be out in front of everybody. You know, we're a nerdy space. There are places for us too. I actually think I would have considered myself 6 years ago an introvert. I think that teaching and coaching has really made me become someone else. I actually think Ward can attest to this. I probably look really grumpy at the end of every day because my social capital is spent, you know. And again, it goes back to having the right community. Teachers, you know, just talking to us, like, we are a profession that loves talking about ourselves. Every teacher I know loves talking about what it's like being in a classroom. And I'm kind of the opposite. I always think about it like, surely the comedians I like are not going home and watching more comic stand-ups. They must be watching something else. I love my job. I love being an educator. But when I go home to get to my dear girlfriend, 7 years, she's also a world history teacher. Like, we have a 20-minute conversation about what our day was like. And I'm like, I can't do that anymore. I literally have to talk about anything else. Like, and I think it's because just that's where my, I guess what I'm really saying is set good boundaries for yourself. So, know who you are. You know yourself better than anyone else. Listen to the voices in your head. Listen to that spirit that guides you, and go for it. Listen to the voices. Don't bill me for that one.
Boundaries are really important.
Thank you.
The boundaries in your professional life are really, really important.
Yeah.
Like, keep that in mind. Like, don't let people push you beyond what you know you can do. Like, you could be pushed to try more, but it's really hard. Like, does anybody identify as a people pleaser in here? Yeah, like I am too, and it's really hard to say no, but
I'm just gonna put it in your face.
yeah, like you have to, because you know, you're gonna have a life, and I just learned I think they can find someone else. Like, you know, like half the time, like I started realizing that, like, why am I saying yes? They're just gonna go ask another counselor, like, or they're gonna go ask another teacher. Like, why do I have to be the one to say yes? And as long as you do it, like I tell my middle schoolers, as long as you do it respectfully, tell them no respectfully, and they should understand.
And Pablo was on my tennis team. And we had to spend 12 hours at times together. I can't imagine what I was probably saying at the 12th hour. I just so spent, you know. We had a tournament in Corpus once, and by the end of it, I was like, never talk to me again. I don't know any of you anymore. So
Also, counseling, mental health counseling, let me just say that, not that you don't have to go to him, you can. Counseling is, if you can go to counseling, which every student at UTSA can for free, which is great, do it. There doesn't have to be something wrong with you. That you don't have to go with a list of things you want to talk about. Just go.
And all counselors take classes on career counseling. So there's also, you can go to career counselors too. If you want more advice on like what jobs to look for, there's counselors that are certified like in depth on career counseling. And that's their whole repertoire, is to help people find what other jobs they might be looking for. So again, counseling does not mean something's wrong with you. It just means you're asking for advice, you know, so it's really what it is.
It's yeah. I'm not telling you have to do it, but I did it as a student, and it helped me learn about myself, but also how to talk to someone about myself, which talking about your workday is like an easy way. Talking about how you process things and your boundaries that you need to set is really hard. So it's a good, the sooner you start, the longer you'll have practice in it. And I think that's really important.
This is so great, and I'm learning from it. I want to keep going longer, but I know that Professors Ajabe and Nolan Farrell have to get back into their classes and, you know, teach. So
thank y'all for letting us run.
thank you all. This has just been amazing.
Thank y'all for being here.
This is great.
Thank you.